now until the end.
Good evening. Welcome to Conspiracy Cafe. I'm your host, George Freund. We're with you now. We're with you to the end, and we hope the end won't be next week. This is The Point of the Sword, the ultimate conspiracy show, the conspiracy show that changes destinies many times over, something the rest of the world has to catch up with because they don't even know there's a box to think outside of, never mind to actually make some changes in and around the box. But we do that here. We share that with you. You make it all very, very special by helping out, contributing at the donate button or sending a little dusty lucre to that channel. We appreciate that. Do that anytime you feel like. Shop at the store on the website, conspiracy-cafe.com.org.net. There's all kinds of goodies there that can help support the show and tell you that you're not afraid of the conspiracy word, because the conspiracy word is nothing to be afraid of. That's just something you've been conditioned to run from, and that's why I chose it, and that's why I use it, because I'm not afraid. Why should I fear what you want me to fear? I do the exact opposite. I make you fear if you're on the bad side, because one day you may be exposed and have to pay for your crimes against we the people. And that's something you don't want to ever have to face, but maybe you will. I took a day off this week, went out with an old friend, did things that were politically incorrect, like go shooting, had a lot of fun, and then got briefed about, some of the politics that still exist in the world behind sports shooters, and it just takes you right aback. It's hard to believe we live in a civilized country. It's hard to believe that our government is just waiting to attack us, imprison us, turn us inside out and backwards, and more. But they are, and they do. So one of the stories that he told me was a man who ordered a pellet gun from the United States. And in Canada, a pellet gun isn't a firearm. It isn't a weapon. They're sold at stores all over the place, especially like Canadian Tire across the street from me here. That's not a problem. You don't need a license for those. So this chap orders one. It comes, and the Canada Customs officer is confused. He doesn't understand what a pellet gun is. He doesn't understand how to read the language on the supporting documents that come with it, describing what it is. I even remember from police college many, many, many long years ago now, the definition of a firearm. You recite things like that like you do the Lord's Prayer in church. It's just committed to memory. Any barreled weapon that can fire shot or missile at over 500 feet per second. It's not hard to figure out. So the pellet gun shoots a missile at less than 500 feet per second. Ergo, it's not a firearm. So the confused customs officer calls in the RCMP, and we get a specialist in the Firearms Act. And he doesn't understand either. So even though there's supporting documents to say that this is an air pistol, and it's certified to shoot less than 500 feet per second, and ergo not a firearm, he decides he's going to go on a holy jihad crusade against one of those we the people. So he dresses himself up as a courier, delivers the item to the man's home, knocks on the door, says, "Here, take this." The confused guy just goes, "Well, don't I have to sign for it?" No, just take it." "Well, don't I have to pay the customs duties because I ordered it from the States?" No, just take it." So he does what he's told. He just takes it, closes the door. 5 seconds later, the battering ram comes out, and they replay cops. Take the guy down at gunpoint, haul him away. Probably turn his home upside down, threaten everybody, "Down, down, down! Don't move, nobody move!" As they go running through the house, storming through there, scaring women and children, tormenting everyone in the neighborhood, scaring the living crap out of everyone within 5 square miles. Very reasonable, you see, because only the police and the military should have guns. The better to shoot you with, as the big bad wolf used to say. So this guy ends up in court. They bring him in the orange jumpsuit, shackled hand and foot, like he's Osama bin Laden. For what? For nothing. He didn't break the law. So even though they have all the supporting paperwork and they can't prove that the shot or missile goes faster than 500 feet per second, there's another little addendum to the law about what a firearm is something that could cause bodily harm. So he goes, well, he probably knows it doesn't go faster than 500 feet per second, so we'll try to say that because it causes bodily harm or could cause bodily harm, that makes it a firearm. And this is where it gets really gross. So if you like animals and you got a heart and a soul, maybe this part bothers you, but how they test it in good old Canada, because we ban everything up here, is they shoot the shot or missile, in this case the pellet gun, into the eye of a pig. And as you'll see on the website, we have a picture of in a pig's eye, and we show, you know, it's just lucky that somebody had something like this online to show the poor little pig pointing at his eyeball, because somebody's going to discharge that shot or missile in there. This is like the little pellet gun. You get a Canadian Tire across the street. It looks like a real pistol, but it's not. This is what the boys look like when they kick in your door. And that's poor little piggy saying, "Please don't shoot me in the eye. I believe him. It's a pellet gun. Honest." But that's okay. We just kill the little sucker and make pork chops. But see, they have something called a ballistic chronograph where you can fire shot or missile through this thing. It's like radar, and it picks up the speed of the projectile and prints it out here in little block numbers that you can see how fast it's going. And you could determine that very easily without killing said pig or turning said man upside down. So even if this thing was illegal and somehow it snuck through the loop, you know, why would you want to go after the guy to entrap him in this? Like, you'd have to be some kind of sick SOB to do something like that. Just say, look, somewhere there's a mistake. He's not responsible for making it. He's not responsible for certifying it. He's not responsible for putting it in a box and sending it across the border. So somebody screwed up maybe if it was illegal. Not him. So why would you do this to him? That's entrapment. I just hand you a box and say, here, take this. Well, you take it. You have no intent. See, that's part of the other thing that people find complex. There's two facets to be convicted in criminal law. You have to have a guilty mind and you have to commit an act. It's called actus reus and mens rea. Guilty mind and an act. I don't think he had either one. He had no intent. He just accepted the box, which he thought was a pellet gun like you could buy across the street. So he had no intent to break the law, and he didn't commit the act either, because you just said, here, take this. If he went and got it himself, well, then you could even say he had the element of the offense called actus reus. And then I have to wonder, I got a hunting license, and even though I don't hunt much, I got to know the difference between my ducks. Never hunted a duck, but I got to know the difference between a diving duck and a puddle duck, the boy ducks and the girl ducks. Got to know those things. Different species of ducks. Got to know that. Why don't you have to know anything after you get out of police college in Regina? Why don't you have to know anything to be a specialist in enforcing the Firearms Act? Why don't you have to know anything? The only thing you have to know is torment them, turn them inside out, kick their butts. That's what you have to know, because we live in a police state and they don't care, just as long as we can keep prodding you with the stick and torment you. Ultimately, after 90 days in jail, this man got my lawyer, who explained the fine print on the paperwork that came with the order to the judge, and the judge got very, very angry and ordered the police to take all those chains and shackles off the man and get him his clothes and release him immediately. He didn't do anything wrong. It was all made up. Like everything they do with terrorism, everything's made up. And like bleeding hearts, everyone lines up to go to the state. Please, please, can I have some more? And they're more than capable of finding dysfunctional people to met it out to you. Never ask them for more. They just may give it to you someday. And what did they give? We look at, another RCMP story. How we committed ethnic cleansing with our own RCMP. They never showed that out of, that those classic old RCMP shows that go back and back and back into the 50s and 60s when we thought we had an upstanding national police force. But we see we have a National Truth and Reconciliation Commission going on. Well, I heard about that when it was in South Africa, but I don't hear much about the one that goes on in Canada. So seemingly over a period of time, we took 150,000 children from their parents. But see, it's okay because they were just Indians, right? That makes it okay. There's a race factor. It wasn't like they were white kids. They weren't French kids. Well, we did that a long time ago with the Acadians, but that was a long time ago. Now we have new people to oppress, the Indians. So we stole them away and we sent them to these boarding schools to be sexually abused and molested. So in this Truth and Reconciliation, people are coming clear about their stories, and the RCMP has come clean, and everybody's apologizing. The RCMP apologized, the Prime Minister apologized, the churches and schools apologized, everybody's sorry. But the bottom line is, at the drop of a hat, in our so-called free and democratic societies, we will commit any atrocity, any time, any way, if we can get away with it. And about the only thing that stopped it from happening on our very doorsteps here in Toronto during the G20 was a good media, a good camera, and national attention live to say, see, look at them. They're evil, disgusting. Look what they do to people. They round them up like Jews. Right here in the streets of Toronto. We'll never forget. Never. And we have to look at what happens in other cities. Can we put on the screen, comrade? This was the Occupy Wall Street, former U.S. Marine veteran, Scott Olson, as he was shot in the head with some kind of gas canister. Fractured his skull. You can see he doesn't look too well. And then we have to wonder, well, why did you pick him? Well, it's very clear because he comes from that group called Veterans for Peace. And Veterans for Peace is a news media who are critical of the false flag wars and all the BS that goes on by unrestricted government. That's why they picked him. They probably shot him just special, just to say, wow, it's just a, as we used to say in just a shot fired in your general direction, but a well-aimed shot to take out the leader of the pack. It's just absolutely disgusting that these people resort to such evil. But that's why we have to have a very, very tight leash on these people, because they are evil. Absolutely evil. If they can get away with it, they'll get away with it. I'm very critical of Occupy Wall Street, as we'll find out as we go along. One of the reasons is, you know, it's just like a giant scam. See if we get our picture from the British press. This is supposed to be the tents at Occupy London. Comrade? They did thermal imaging, and you see most of the tents are empty. So you see all these tents, they put out a good picture, but in reality, nobody's home. Most of the people in this article that are described are just, you know, dope smoking louts, getting drunk, causing all kinds of public disturbances, not the slightest bit interested in some of the things you think are important about the whole concept of the bankers, where the world's going, where the economy's going, and all that sort of thing. They don't care. They're just out for a good time. And that doesn't surprise me in the slightest. So we find out as well that who's behind Occupy Wall Street. Well, someone did some research, and they go to who's got their name behind their internet website. So the 15october.net website, where they talk about all this global change, was registered for a while until they found out Paulina Arcos, 866 United Nations Plaza, Suite 516, New York, New York, 10017, United States. She is the wife of Francisco Carrion Mina, Permanent Representative of Ecuador, Chairman of the Special Committee at the UN. Then the author says, well, that address also comes out from books he's read on the Illuminati to Lucis Trust. And then on the 19th, they changed the name and register it to someone else because they got caught. And then he goes into some of the people who got caught as well supporting this. George Soros, CFR, Trilateral Commission, Bilderberg Group, Open Society Foundations, Mikhail Gorbachev, Occupy Wall Street, signals an emerging new world order. So there we are, just like I said from the very beginning weeks ago. We have it posted on the website, the 1917 Revolution in Russia. And where's Gorbachev's Millennium Forum? 866 United Nations Plaza, Suite 120, New York. I don't know if I have time to read his comments, but I think we can paraphrase them. We are reaping the consequences of a strategy that is not conducive to cooperation and partnership, to living in a new global situation. The world needs to bring people together. Some people in the United States were pushing the idea of creating a global American empire, and that was a mistake from the start. Other people in America are now giving thought to the future of their country. The big banks, the big corporations are still paying the same bonuses to their bosses. Was there ever a crisis for them? I believe America needs its own perestroika. The entire world situation did not develop properly. We saw deterioration where there should have been positive movement. And then he gets into, he and his old friend John Paul II believe that they should have a new world order. We have problems building such an order, the problems of the environment, the backwardness of poverty, food shortages, and because we do not have a system of global governance. We cannot leave things as they were before. We need to see that these protests are moving to even new countries and that almost all countries are now witnessing such processes and protests. The people want change. As we are addressing these challenges, these problems raised by these protests, we will gradually find our way towards a new world order. So basically all these people have been stooped, taken advantage of. They get into a list of names of big rich people who are supporting this. If you study Sun Tzu and you understand the art of war, you know right away that this was a false strategy. Can we show the video on the Occupy Phoenix? We'll just do about 3 minutes there. And you just see the difference of we the people and why you should have pellet guns. This is sent to me by one of our fans and benefactors who said, George, you will just love this. And, you know, you have to pick yourself up off the floor.
So you are with the Border Patrol?
USBorderGuard.com. We're totally privately funded.
Oh, really? I thought you were, you know, the badge looked like it was, you know, you were part of the government or something.
Well, all the citizens are part of the government.
I understand.
They
well,
work for us.
No, I understand. Yeah, they're the
But
public
yeah, I know
servants.
what you're saying.
These are the public servants right here. Public servants, the people. Public servants, people. And so your organization is called what?
USBorderGuard.com.
Okay, and
Has all the information.
can you tell me your name, or is that, or your
Sure.
handle or something, or what?
You know what? I'm the patrol leader of it.
Okay, well, I'm Morpheus. So
Okay,
what's your
good to
handle?
meet you. JT.
JT, cool.
Yeah.
And so what is your...
Main stance today?
yes, yes.
Well, we're exercising our Second Amendment right.
I love it.
That everybody can have a First Amendment right. So what we want to drive home today is that regardless of different beliefs, that the moment we give up our Second Amendment right, that's when tyrants can come in. That's when the big boys with guns can sweep through and take anybody's rights away.
Right.
So that's why we're standing out here today. That's our primary focus. The secondary focus is that there's 60,000 dead in northern Mexico from guns that our government provided, from training to the Los Zetas from our government, which also includes Los Zetas. So why is that? So we're calling attention to that as well. We're having Americans killed and Mexicans killed, and we really should be working with our neighbors, not against them.
Right.
So that's our second focus, because that's what we do every day.
Okay.
But our main focus out here is because we want to exercise those rights.
Right, and we have to be protected against the public servants.
That's why we're facing this way, except for we got security guys that
right.
look around.
I love it. I think this is awesome, man. You guys really rock, man.
We put our back to everybody back here because we're trusting everybody behind us to be peaceful. Doesn't matter if we agree or disagree.
Right.
That's what our rights are about.
So
we're not Wall Street bankers. Let's put it that way.
What? Are you prepared to do anything here today?
That's what we're trained for.
Okay.
So everybody out here is part of a squad that's fully trained to use justified use of deadly force. That's important to know. We're not cowboys out here causing a problem.
I understand.
As you can see, it's all peaceful.
Yes, exactly,
and
but you never know.
We want to demonstrate to other folks, too, that you can do this peacefully, and that the more people that do it, the more you exercise that First Amendment, you add teeth to it with the Second Amendment, that'll keep the government from ever taking away our First Amendment rights.
Right. So are you familiar with Oath Keepers and Stewart Rhodes?
We've met some of those folks, yeah.
Okay. And do you have any feelings about the...
I think it's part of the First and Second Amendment.
Isn't that wonderful? It's like I've said on the Power Hour many times, because I'm primarily speaking to an American audience. You have the right to have those Second Amendment marches, and when you have problems, you have to remind them that we, the people, are the government. And we're lazy here in Canada because it was from the British that we inherited the right to bear arms. That was in the British Bill of Rights going way, way, way back. That's our sacred right too. The Americans wrote it down. Very, very smart, because they know they're going to work on you to try to change that, aren't they? But when they go away to all, could you imagine what the G20 would have been like if there was 10,000 guys like him standing around the corner too, saying, and what law? What place did that come from? We're the people. We're the government. And as one lady always said on the Power Hour that I liked, they're the maids and servants. It's time they understood their place. Unless you want to wait for them to take your children too and send them to some demonic school to be sexually abused and assaulted and cover it all up for a good generation, maybe two or more. So we have a report. Sydney Marcus White did a good report about what happened to our guest, Judith. She had a little event after the show when she was at a hotel dinner with her family. Turns out somebody put broken glass in her food and she got cut up a little bit. They took her to the hospital. She wasn't hurt bad or anything like that. I know Sydney well. I took her course on propaganda, and I think I learned a lot there. So it was good to have one of our good people close by to document all this stuff. And what are we going to document next? Like we said, we hope we're here next week, because next week is the EAS. Quick flash on the screen, comrade. EAS, the Emergency Alert System. Bzz, 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 bzz. FEMA, the Federal Communications Commission, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration are going to practice the first ever nationwide test, November 9th, 2 p.m. Eastern. Department of Homeland Security, right in there. When we look at what some of the tests are going to be like, that's all posted on the website in that handy-dandy little article. We see there's going to be a community medical exercise. Marine Corps Reserve called up for the Mid-South region to participate in a community medical exercise. MILCOM 2011 is going on, the Triple E Military Communications Conference, November 7th to the 10th. They'll be getting into a lot of stuff, but one of the ones that has to be most concerning or disconcerting is the Exercise Pacific Wave 11, PAC Wave 11. Be held November 9th, November 10th, multi-scenario exercise that will allow the PTWS countries to exercise during a destructive local or regional tsunami scenario. They've picked 10 places, which are on the website, to talk about what's going to happen. And what's going to happen? What's coming close? What, why this? Why all of a sudden? I'm a Cold War baby. We never did this nationally. And, they got a nice graph here. Can we see the graph of the tsunami effects going out from point of impact? Very, very handy. And then we see this nice touchy little thing here. Oh, what's that? YU-55, the asteroid, is passing November the 8th. I think it's something like 2330 Greenwich Mean Time sometime, so very close to November the 9th. It's going to pass closer than it did the last time. The last time, we covered that on this show too. It came 1.3 trillion miles close to the Earth. And we said, God's firing a warning shot. This time it's going to be 200,000 miles, so it's 1.1 million miles closer. It's going to get even closer than that on another pass, so we hear. Just to wake us and shake us a little bit. Is this the whole basis for the national alert? There could be another reason too. We see our friends in Israel have done this. This was on the front page of the National Post and probably went around newspapers around the world. This is Israel test firing one of their nuclear missiles to tell Iran, don't piss us off. We're prepared. We'll take you out. We're ready to go to war. And if you followed this show, you know they were ready to go to war. We broke their code. We stopped the false flag operation. America always does a false flag operation to get into wars. Always. How can you be surprised? Anytime there's a war, you know there's a false flag operation. You go right back. Remember the Maine. Remember Pearl Harbor. Remember 9/11, the Gulf of Tonkin incident. They always do that. So we had it here too. They were going to have an assassination. Take out somebody. How far up the line? One author said as far as the president. And that the Saudi ambassador was just a cover story. They were going to do something reckless to get us into World War III. And part of the thing we decoded was one of the plans, the model airplane, remote controlled. We knew about the red plan, the blue plan, which talks about thermonuclear detonations under American cities, very close to American cities, that didn't get to happen because we were standing on guard, as they say in our national anthem, because we, the people, are alert and we know your tricks. But Israel's ready to go. Not only is Israel ready to go, so are the Brits. UK military steps up plans for fresh attack amid Iran nuclear fears. So Britain Armed Forces has put together a contingency plan. This is a Guardian article in the British press, to be prepared to take out Iran and work in cahoots with the United States and Israel in starting pretty much World War III. So they're ready to go. Everything's ready to go. The Brits are ready. The Americans are ready. They got new bases in new places. They were massing troops on the border with Pakistan. They were massing troops in their war zone countries. But it got shut down. So they're a little delayed. They couldn't use the false flag they had. So now they might have to come up with something else. And don't be surprised if it isn't coming on or about November the 9th. 9/11 backwards. Don't trust these people. They're just evil. China has launched a rocket. The Shenzhou 8 spacecraft took off as well. Maybe it's conveniently up there to do a little interception work with our asteroid. It's hard to say. Everybody lies. No one tells us the truth because we're not the government to them. We're the slaves. Always have been, always will be, until we find some courage like you see in Phoenix. You know, it's not against the law in Canada to walk down the street with an unencased long gun, unloaded, and have something equivalent to a Second Amendment march. And one day when men get magnifying glasses, and women too, well, the women won't have the balls to find between their legs with the magnifying glass, and hundreds of thousands of people just march to their city hall or their legislature to say, we are the government. We are the people. We have the power. See, Canada has it ass backwards. They think that a state should have a monopoly on deadly force, and that makes you a proper state. Wrong. The power belongs in the hands of the people, not the state. It's a failed state. It's a police state that has that. A free state has the power in the hands of the people, and that's the right to bear arms, just like you see in Phoenix. I bet you that was a very, very quiet day. Very quiet. Isn't that amazing? Can we show a quick video, the asteroid? Now, this story goes into the future when the asteroid comes back a few years from now and actually comes inside the level of satellites in orbit. That's how close it's going to come. Maybe it's even going to come close this time, and that's why they're prepared. Maybe they're just lying to us. They lie about everything. Fire.
"23 minutes before the hour now. Here's the asteroid story. An asteroid the size of the Rose Bowl, more than 1,000 feet across, fields its way toward the Earth right now. It'll come by first in 2029, and we'll see it up there. It'll be closer than our satellites, a thing the size of the Rose Bowl hurtling through the air. And then it comes again in 2036, and that's when it may get interesting. The debate over just how close it'll get is sparking some serious debate between Russian scientists and American scientists. Here's a satellite picture of the thing. This is from, well, with this and, you know, this tells you nothing. But see it there? I don't know, that circly thing in the middle maybe? This was from 2004. It doesn't look very intimidating here. Both sides seem to agree that in 3 decades, the asteroid will fly very close to Earth. But Russian scientists warn that our planet's gravity could change the asteroid's path and set it on a collision course. NASA scientists say there is a minuscule, little bitty chance of that happening. 1 in 250,000. Better than winning the lotto, and somebody will. Joining us now, Michio Kaku. He's a theoretical physics professor at City University of New York, CUNY. He's also the author of Physics of the Future, and a new book coming out in about a month, and we'll tell you about that in about a month. So, good to see you. 2029, it flies by underneath the satellites.
That's right. Mark it on your calendar. Friday the 13th, April 2036. The
that's
big
the
one.
second pass.
On the second pass, right? The first pass, like you said, it comes right underneath our satellites. You can actually see it whizzing right overhead.
Wow.
And on the second pass, it might actually be a nation buster. It'll take out Germany. It'll take out France, England.
Not England.
Right? Or the entire northeast of the United States.
Careful.
It'll hit with the force of 100,000 Hiroshima bombs.
Really? If it hits?
If it hits, right. It's a catastrophe beyond human comprehension. And the head of the Russian Space Agency has said that the Russian scientists should think of some ways of deflecting it or handling this menace in 2036.
What are we going to do? Shoot it with a laser?
Well, everyone thinks we'll send Bruce Willis out there with the space shuttle. But the space shuttle can't even reach outer space. We're phasing it out, and the space shuttle only spins wheels around the planet Earth. It cannot even go to deep space. We need a new booster rocket to take us out there.
Maybe China will build us one.
Maybe, and then we have to nudge it out of the way. The farther it is, the easier it is to push it out with rockets so it'll miss the planet Earth. But it's something that we have to take seriously. This is the first major threat from a giant meteor or asteroid.
Were it to hit us, do we know what it would do to our rotation around the sun and the spinning on the axis?
Well, it will definitely affect the rotation of the Earth as it goes around the sun. The immediate impact would be a gigantic shock wave going out maybe 50 to 100 miles, then firestorms going out to hundreds of miles beyond that.
Firestorms.
And then meteorites raining back down on the planet Earth. So the devastation would be on the order of 500 to 1,000 miles. Think of a bullseye containing half the United States. That's the potential impact. And again, it's a very tiny probability, but we're watching it very carefully.
Because the thinking among some of these Russian scientists is that the first time it passes, the gravitational pull of the Earth could pull it closer, and then on the second pass in 2036,
the wild card is also the atmospheric disturbances. It's going to come right to the outskirts of our own atmosphere. Friction is going to take place, and that's unpredictable. We simply don't know how it's going to react as it whizzes through the atmosphere of the Earth, and that could affect the second pass, and that's why we're keeping our fingers crossed in 2036.
2 sets of fingers crossed. But isn't the world ending in 2012? The Mayan calendar seems to indicate.
Well, if you look at the Mayan calendar, it actually says that it's cyclical, and we could be witnessing a rebirth. We should be celebrating then. And personally, I hope to be around in 2013. So don't sell the store, don't get divorced, don't ruin your life in 2012.
All right, I'm sure some people will. News from the future. 2012 is going to be weird. It's great to see you. I'll see you in a month for that new book, right?
Right, Physics of the Future, about the next 50 to 100 years.
I can't wait. You interviewed 300 scientists?
That's right.
See you then. Thanks.
So yeah, we thought we were all going to die from global warming. Isn't that sweet? So how much of this is completely accurate? Is YU-55 the reason we're having the major FEMA warning next week? Is it tied together? Is he just giving us part stories? It's difficult to say. Will gravity affect the incoming direction of this asteroid? But I'm a big believer in say your prayers, rabbits, and the more you do it, the better it is for you. That helps our karma wave coming along, and maybe the warning shot across the bow will just be the warning shot across the bow, and we'll have other things to deal with. But those are what's on our plate, and that's why we have to come here to talk about these things. We don't care that a certain woman got divorced after 72 days of marriage, because that's just a scam to sucker you in and steal all your rights and freedoms. Can we show the screen there? This is one of the follow-up stories on our good buddy Muammar Gaddafi here, they said that he was violated with a bayonet in the rear end, and I still believe that that was a double, because he had a gun that was old and obsolete, even though it was made out of gold, and the fact that I think he would have fired a few rounds in their general direction if he had a chance, because he had everything at his disposal. So I find it hard to believe. But for another reason too, this is another reason why, you know, people need to keep and bear arms, because you don't want to be on the butt end of something like that. The other factor is, what kind of security would he have? They showed us the man. Can we see the man, Hugh? Can we see the man, Hugh? That's okay. He'll never get a job on a nuclear submarine. This is supposed to be the driver, Mr. You know, Bruce Willis, or you know, whatever, Jean-Claude Van Damme for Saddam. Like, he couldn't hire anybody better. He had to have a 60-year-old guy who was scared and didn't know what to do, and yada yada yada. But usually when he hired bodyguards, he had the female kind, and you see he had a whole lot more than a 1935 Browning high power available to him. That's a nice little submachine gun with a pistol grip in the front, 9mm Burp-O-Matic maybe. But these are the guys they hire for the security. This guy was in the National Post. Gary Peters owns a Canadian protection company, something similar to what Blackwater would be, in the Kitchener area, I believe. He's really an Australian Special Forces soldier from before. He was working with Saudi Gaddafi as his bodyguard. That's what they use. So you see, like, who would you hire? You hire him, or you have this old guy here driving the throwaway car with the throwaway double and all the rest of this stuff. So that's what Gaddafi is going to escape with? No, he's going to have dozens of people like this guy. There was a firefight. This individual was wounded. He had to be evac'd and brought back to Canada for treatment eventually. Great story in the National Post on him. Google his name, read about what it's really like to be in executive protection of that nature at that level. He got Saudi out of the country. That was his job, in spite of the fact he was shot in the shoulder. Okay? And he also mentions in the article that they bought 3 new armored vehicles. Light tanks on 4 wheels. I think Muammar would have had one of those too, and they wouldn't have found him in a tunnel unless they were sacrificing the doppelganger, the double. But that's just my opinion, and it seems to make sense with the available evidence that we have at hand here. And then we got another really big story. It comes out in the British press. It seems they have freedom of speech there for some reason, maybe because that was the home of the old Bill of Rights. We discuss global warming all the time, and we know it's a fraud. So they brought out their best people after the last exposés to explain that it was a fraud, to say that, yes, there's global warming. So Professor Richard Mueller of Berkeley University in California, colleagues from Berkeley Earth Surface Temperatures Project Team BEST, have shown that the planet has warmed by almost a degree centigrade since 1950 and is warming continually. They published their work ahead of a major United Nations climate summit in Durban, South Africa for next month. Irrefutable evidence that only the most stringent measures to reduce carbon dioxide emissions can save civilization as we know it. This piece of garbage that he wrote is used by reporters and commentators around the world, from the BBC, The Independent, The Guardian, The Economist, and numerous media outlets in America. And it showed that anyone who is against what they believe in is a fraud, an idiot, or a kook. However, one member of his team, Professor Judith Curry, who chairs the Department of Earth and Atmospheric Sciences of America's prestigious Georgia Institute of Technology, said it's a huge mistake with no scientific basis. She's a distinguished climate researcher, 30 years experience, co-author of the best projects for research papers. His partner in crime. She compared it, or it's being compared to the notorious ClimateGate scandal of 2 years ago. They said that they have used false data and made serious errors. So if we can show the screen there, this is his graph on the top, which she says is a lie and a fraud, and this is her graph at the bottom that says nothing's changed. One of the big mistakes they made scientifically, she says, is They didn't take into account the influence of clouds, natural temperature cycles, and solar radiation. I've heard rumors the sun was hot, and they should have done this. They should have done it a long time ago. So it's like we've always said, they're lying to us. And they're lying to us for a reason, because they get money, power, and control. If they can charge us $1 million every time we break wind, they'll do it, and you'll pay it, because we allow them to get away with it. Because we don't have any AR-15s and nice sand-colored uniforms to stand in the street and say, "Your mama, you ain't getting my money." But see, that takes cojones. See, the men who got us our rights, they had to fight for them and die for them, get arms and legs cut off, get a little disemboweling here or there. They had to stand up and growl from time to time, not cower in fear. So the New World Order takes advantage of that. New poll finds a deep distrust of government. New York Times article. Little economic anxiety, deterioration of the economy. Well, no doubt about that, I'm sure. And why should we have that distrust? Google, U.S. law enforcement tried to get videos removed from YouTube. So their demands to remove YouTubes have gone through the roof. Brazil has made the most content removal requests, followed by Germany, the U.S., and South Korea. So you have freedom of speech. But you have nothing without Second Amendment rights. We see Honduras is the hub of drug smuggling into the United States, set up by the intelligence agencies, given oodles of cash in a regime change with President Obama to put a new lackey in place who can sweeten the pie and get all this stuff across the border. Millions and millions of dollars going to a regime that murders people, controlled by drug lords. 3,000 people, including journalists, lawyers, and activists, have been killed by the illegitimate government in Honduras. And this is all tolerated by the freedom-loving peoples of the United States of America. So it's like that guy said in the video. We give all these guns to the Mexicans to kill each other. And we say, oh, you have this crisis. We need more gun control in the United States. Because these guns came from the United States. They just don't tell you the government gave them the guns. And that created a crisis. So the answer to the crisis was to let American troops go in there and take over Mexico. Brilliant. But we're not falling for it anymore. Colombia's president did a good thing. He dissolved their intelligence agency. Something Kennedy wanted to do till he got a bullet in the head. Because they're rogues. They've gone too far. One of the major reasons that they were running death squads, smuggling drugs. What do we need that for? The only downside is 92% of them are still in the public employ in other government jobs. The head of the intelligence agency and some of his cohorts are serving long times in prison. Tony Blair has made this deal in Kazakhstan, Borit land. He gets a lot of money from this donor called Lakshmi Mittal. Probably don't know him. He doesn't end up in the gossip columns from time to time, I don't think. I don't think anyone would write anything nasty about him in the gossip column because they'd end up with a Colombian necktie, as they used to say. But he was a major donor to Tony Blair when he was in office. He gave the Labour Party £4 million. That's not too bad. You can do a little something with £4 million. He's Britain's richest man. It's a fortune of £20 billion. He's very close to the president of Kazakhstan. I won't insult him by trying to, well, I guess I can do the last name, Nazarbayev. So he convinced Mr. Blair to write a letter so that he could buy Romania's state-owned steel firm 2 weeks after he made a £125,000 contribution to Labour. So why do we not trust the government? You can buy them. They're whores. They're all whores. You lay down your cash, they're yours. They'll bend over, they'll do tricks, they'll jump through the flaming hoop, they'll start wars. They'll steal bailout money, they'll do anything. They're completely robotic whores at the beck and call of any bag of bucks that comes along. And that you can trust. So Mr. Blair has secured an £8 million deal to clean up the image of Kazakhstan. They probably could have got Borat for a whole lot less. And then, of course, they mention, you know, there's little stuff in there where J.P. Morgan's investing in Kazakhstan and such like that. They're all good friends, good buddies. It's just absolutely sick and disgusting as far as I'm concerned, because these people have no limits to how much money of yours they will expropriate and turn to their own devices. Let's see here. We got another one of what the good old future may look like. There we go, work from home. So one of the things you may see ultimately is something like this. This is the ultimate work from home project. So they build this little robot that looks like R2-D2, and the boss stays at home, and this little thing, which is on a Segway, just goes around the office and spies on you with its camera, and he can see you through the camera and talk to you just like he's the boss. So as you're sitting at your desk, this little robot goes around and does what a human being should do. Like, in a way, it's almost like sick and disgusting, because, you know, part of the workplace environment is to actually interact with people close up, as opposed to having this little monster follow you around and spy on you. It's disgusting, but that's what they want. And ultimately, you could probably have one boss supervising 10 or 20 places with 10 or 20 little robots, and he just flips from screen to screen. So we put more and more people out of work. Who needs them, right? If you're on the website, of course, you know, I did a piece on the body scanner. Politically correct. It is not. But why should we be politically correct? We use what they use and just give it right back at them. And in a way, I've always felt there's absolutely nothing wrong with giving it back at them, because they've used propaganda on us for many, many long years to destroy all the social fabric of society. So I give it back to you. One of the books that they had written many years ago was called Fear of Flying. And it was all about getting women to get in all sorts of sordid sexual relations with people. Well, now we have a real reason to have fear of flying, because they're going to unzip our DNA with these body scanners. Seemingly terahertz radiation unzips your DNA. And one of the big words in the fear of flying was the zipless fuck. Just sex at the drop of a hat like a stray dog. Can we show the images there, colleague? So there's the real fear of flying. You're going to get this. And I've paraphrased the old song that they used to use for tourism, hands up, baby, hands up, because they're going to look at all your private parts. They're going to look at your butt, they're going to look at your pubic mound, they're going to look at your breasts, they're going to look at everything, and it's not something that's going to be destroyed later, it will be saved for future reference. And if there is going to be a hands up, this is the hands up that you're going to have after they expose you to the terahertz, because you're going to get cancer. And your hands are going to go up, and you're going to rise up in the clouds as angels to meet your demise, because you have severe radiation unzipping your DNA, and you are literally getting screwed by these demonic individuals. They knew all about this. They knew all about this. They figured this out in 2009, long before they built and issued all these detectors. And this is what is just so disgusting with this whole event. It just boggles my mind that we can be, you know, inundated with such things to put in and expose our bodies to. I guess we could have a little comic relief here, since there's a big scandal brewing in Toronto. We get the screen, colleague? This isn't Toronto's mayor, although he got in trouble for saying that word in the back, which is a takeoff of a clothing company. This is the mayor of Melbourne, Australia, and he looks very much like our Mayor Ford here in Toronto. Actually, if we put that up around town, people might think it's Mayor Ford, and we could have a few yucks over his 911 call when the CBC cornered him and tried to interview him impromptu style. But the Australian mayor looks a whole lot tougher and a whole lot more resolute, in my opinion, so he wasn't one to be intimidated and frightened. And then there's a really bizarre story coming out of the United States. I guess if you're a physicist, that's a good thing, because you almost need it to understand this. And I'll post it on the website. It's just too good. This is like, you know, a milestone in human history. We have an individual who's gone to the patent office in the United States, Dr. Marvin B. Pullman of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he has patented his time machine. And it's just an absolute amazing thing, because he's no fool. He's Director of Governance, Risk, and Compliance Product Strategy for a major Bay Area enterprise software company, author of 3 textbooks. He finds by creating an artificial wormhole, time travel is possible. So if we can show the screen there, we see 2 little wormholes, how we can go from A to B. And I'll read this for you, and unfortunately, it's on the high end, so we'll just have to stumble along. The method employs sinusoidal oscillations of electrical bombardment on the surface of one Kerr-type singularity in close proximity to a second Kerr-type singularity. In such a method, to take advantage of the lens-theoring effect, to simulate the effect of 2-point masses on nearly radial orbits in a 2+1 dimensional anti-Sitter space, resulting in the creation of circular, time-like geodesics conforming to the Van Stockum under the Van den Broek modification of the Alcubierre geometry, permitting topology change from one space-like boundary to the other in accordance with Garouk's theorem, resulting in a method for the formation of Gödel-type geodesically complete space-time envelopes, complete with closed time-like curves. And if you can say that again by yourself, you're doing very, very well. Whenever traveling through time is accomplished, then time travel immediately exists throughout eternity. Evidence may already exist. Another Russian engineer claims to have built a working time machine, built and tested. It's a Model T compared to Pullman's Ferrari, if it's ever built. And then people mention John Titor, the guy who claimed he was a time traveler from the year 2036, when YU-36 skims really close to us, and that he was back around in 2000 and 2001. Very, very interesting stuff. Stuff that will disappear, as they say in this article. If something like that ever comes to be even close to a working model, it will disappear. There's no way that they're going to let technology like that, just like Tesla technology, disappeared. No way. We see Shakespeare's film Anonymous coming to the forefront. We talked about that. There was possibly a coded reference coming up as well in a innocuous story where the head of U.S. intelligence is going to win a bet. Leon Panetta won a bet with someone. Pentagon chief uncorks rare 231-year-old wine after winning bin Laden bet. So we look at this bottle of wine. It had a date attached to it. It's 231 years old, so are we talking the 23rd of January? The bottle of wine is from 1870, a day of infamy when American troops committed a horrific massacre on Native Indians, allies of the United States. These Indians showed their treaties and papers to the soldiers. They were open fire on and all shot, killed with very high-powered rifles of the day. So is that telling us something, that maybe this war with Iran will come on this certain day, perhaps? The other bottle that was pictured in the article was from 1799. Of course, it's a Rothschild wine, by the way. And 23/1/1799 was the establishment of the Parthenopean Republic, something that came after one of these notorious wars, the French Revolutionary Wars, way back when. It lasted for a short period of time. But that's the way they do things. That's how they do things, and that's why you have to be alert to these things. One of the most anticipated means of communication were the Shakespearean codes. DARPA is going after code and puzzle masters. They've got a $50,000 prize out to put together shredded information. As we see on the website, this is something you can look for yourself, conspiracy-cafe.org.com.net, 18th century secret society code cracked. Of course, this is just an initiation rite. It's nothing all that important. But by being able to read the secret languages of the secret societies, you can read how they secretly manipulated and controlled government and history through time. Of course, if the professor who cracked this code at USC does something like that, I'm sure he'll be getting the broken glass in his food too. They lied about the New York Stock Exchange numbers for a little while last week. Put out false numbers, imagine that. MF Global collapsed under its Euro bets. $700 million was missing from MF Global for some reason. Everybody who was at the high end of MF Global, former U.S. Senator, New Jersey Governor, Corzine, he was in a road accident a while back too. Remember they almost took him out on his 4x4 as he was going across a bridge or something like that? Got out of politics. He's going to get a $12.1 million severance package, prorated bonus and other benefits terminated without cause. $700 million went missing. I think that's a cause. And then his associates, Randy McDonald gets $17.9 million, and another one gets $13.7 million. It pays to steal. The Euro deal has been done. They say 50% of their debt is written off, but they don't tell you the fine print too much, that they're cutting the throats of the people, and that's why they need and want a referendum. They have to have this referendum. Let the people decide. It's we, the people. Wages cut, all people fired, thresholds on income tax lowered, pensions lowered, all sorts of things lowered. It's just absolutely brutal. The president of Greece said he fought against the Germans, but he fought them, like I said before, with Churchill, on the beaches, on the streets. Now it's the boardrooms and the classrooms where we have to fight. They have pictures of Angela Merkel in her Nazi uniform, but a big decision point is being reached here. They're looking to China to come to the rescue. China has to pick, do I help the American currency, the US dollar, or do I help the euro? They have to make a choice. And then lo and behold, in one of the German banks, they found that even though they got bailouts, they had $48 billion secreted away in an account that they just lost track of. FMS Wirt Management, a notorious German bank, it is said. $48 billion was tucked away that no one knew anything about. You expect me to believe that? I believe you tucked it away and then came forward and said, "Please, sir, may I have some more? We need a bailout." And dumb, stupid as we are, we open up the treasuries and give them the bailout as they walk away knowing full well they never needed it in the first place. There's nothing worse than somebody going to the food bank who has a really good, well-paying job and just blows their money at the racetrack and needs to get food. It's not right. The people who really need it should get it. Banksters don't need it. Not when they get severance packages like that anyway. They shouldn't get a dime, not a thin dime, or even a good old Deutschmark. That's the way it is. We're out of time, are we, Hugh? You have to catch the bus or something like that? The assassin's waiting? Chewing your broken glass? Good man. He's munching away there, he can't talk. This is Conspiracy Cafe. This is the point of the sword. This is where it's at. This is where we make and break destinies. You can watch, you can participate, you can be a benefactor, you can buy souvenirs, you can do all sorts of things, because for now, we're still free. How long that will be is entirely up to you. But I'm here, and thanks to some contributors, I'll be here again next week, and the week after that, and the week after that, and the week after that, because they answered the call. This is the point of the sword. I'm George Freund. This is that channel. This is Toronto. There's nothing else like it on the planet Earth. Don't forget to come back. Good night.
About the crime, no one looks behind the curtain, and no one questions why. The only time we got is right about now. I cross my heart I take the vow I'll never turn, I'll never bend. I'm with you now.